Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, exploring the intricacies of human history and the complexities that have shaped our world. Today, we delve into a pivotal moment in American history, the ratification of the United States Constitution. This seminal event, which took place over 2 centuries ago, laid the foundation for the governance and political structure of one of the world's most influential nations. The Revolutionary War had just come to an end, with the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783 marking a decisive victory for the colonies against British rule. However, the newly independent nation faced numerous challenges, including economic instability, territorial disputes, and a lack of centralized authority. In the aftermath of the Revolution, the Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1781, served as the first attempt at a federal constitution. Yet, these articles proved inadequate for the task of governing a fledgling nation, plagued by weaknesses such as a lack of executive power, no judiciary, and insufficient provisions for national defense. The need for a more robust and effective system of government became increasingly apparent. Against this backdrop, a group of visionary individuals, later known as the Founding Fathers, began to contemplate a new framework for governance. Among these luminaries were George Washington, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, and Alexander Hamilton, each bringing their unique perspectives and expertise to the table. Their collective efforts would ultimately give rise to the United States Constitution, a document that would undergo intense scrutiny and debate during its ratification process. The year 1786 marked a significant turning point in this narrative, as a series of events converged to propel the nation toward constitutional reform. The Annapolis Convention, though attended by only a handful of states, highlighted the need for a more comprehensive gathering to address the shortcomings of the Articles of Confederation. This led to the Philadelphia Convention of 1787, where delegates from 12 states assembled to draft a new constitution. As we navigate the intricate web of events leading up to the ratification of the United States Constitution, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex interplay between influential figures, ideological debates, and regional interests. The likes of George Mason, Roger Sherman, and Charles Pinckney played crucial roles in shaping the document's content, while the absence of notable personalities like Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, who were abroad on diplomatic missions, also left an indelible mark on the proceedings. The summer of 1787 proved to be a transformative period, as the Philadelphia Convention convened from May 25th to September 17th. Within the assembly room of the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall, the delegates engaged in fervent discussions navigating the nuances of federalism, representation, and individual rights. The Great Compromise, also known as the Connecticut Compromise, which established a bicameral legislature with equal representation in the Senate and proportional representation in the House of Representatives, was a pivotal moment in these deliberations. As the Constitutional Convention drew to a close, the draft document, penned by James Madison, with significant contributions from other delegates, began to take shape. The Constitution's preamble, with its eloquent expression of the document's purpose, set the tone for the comprehensive framework that followed. The distribution of powers among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, as well as the system of checks and balances, were designed to prevent any one branch from dominating the others. As the Constitutional Convention drew to a close, the draft document, penned by James Madison, with significant contributions from other delegates, began to take shape. The Constitution's preamble, with its eloquent expression of the document's purpose, set the tone for the comprehensive framework that followed. The distribution of powers among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, as well as the system of checks and balances, were designed to prevent any one branch from dominating the others. On September 17, 1787, the Constitution was signed by 39 delegates, marking a pivotal moment in American history. However, the journey toward ratification had only just begun. The document was then sent to the Congress of the Confederation, which, after some debate, forwarded it to the states for consideration on September 28, 1787. The ratification process was set in motion, with each state tasked with holding its own convention to deliberate and vote on the Constitution. The first state to ratify the Constitution was Delaware, which did so on December 7, 1787, earning it the nickname the First State. Other states soon followed, with Pennsylvania ratifying on December 12, 1787, and New Jersey on December 18, 1787. However, not all states were as quick to embrace the new document. In many cases, the ratification process was marked by intense debate and opposition from those who felt that the Constitution did not adequately protect individual rights, or that it gave too much power to the federal government. One of the most significant challenges to the ratification of the Constitution came from the Anti-Federalists, a group of individuals who opposed the document on various grounds. They argued that the Constitution would lead to a tyrannical federal government, which would trample the rights of the states and individual citizens. The Anti-Federalists were led by figures such as Patrick Henry, George Mason, and Richard Henry Lee, who were influential in Virginia and other states. In response to the concerns of the Anti-Federalists, several key Federalists, including James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay, penned a series of essays known as the Federalist Papers. These essays, which were published between October 1787 and August 1788, provided a detailed explanation of the Constitution's provisions and argued that they were necessary for the creation of a strong and effective federal government. As Madison so eloquently stated, the Constitution supposes, what the history of all governments demonstrates, that the executive is the branch of power most interested in being overgrown, and therefore likely to usurp upon the legislative. As the ratification process continued, several states held their conventions, often with dramatic results. In Massachusetts, for example, the convention was marked by intense debate, with opponents of the Constitution arguing that it did not provide sufficient protection for individual rights. However, after a series of passionate speeches and negotiations, the convention ultimately voted to ratify the document on February 6, 1788. Similar dramas played out in other states, such as New York, where the convention was deeply divided between supporters and opponents of the Constitution. The New York Ratifying Convention, which met from June 17 to July 26, 1788, was a particularly significant event in the ratification process. The convention was attended by several prominent figures, including Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and George Clinton, who engaged in a series of intense debates over the merits of the Constitution. Ultimately, the convention voted to ratify the document on July 26, 1788, but only after a narrow margin of 30-27. The ratification process continued throughout the summer and fall of 1788, with several states voting to approve the Constitution. On June 21, 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify, thereby meeting the minimum requirement for the document to go into effect. However, it was not until May 29, 1790, that the final state, Rhode Island, ratified the Constitution, completing the process of ratification. Throughout this period, the Federalists and Anti-Federalists engaged in a series of passionate debates, with each side presenting its case for or against the Constitution. The ratification process was marked by intense partisanship, with supporters of the document often clashing with opponents over issues such as states' rights, individual liberties, and the role of the federal government. As the process drew to a close, it became clear that the Constitution would indeed become the foundation of the United States government, shaping the course of American history for generations to come. The ratification of the Constitution also sparked a wider national conversation about the meaning and implications of the document. In the months and years that followed, Americans from all walks of life grappled with the significance of the Constitution, debating its provisions and arguing over its interpretation. This ongoing conversation would continue to shape American politics and society as the nation struggled to implement the principles and ideals enshrined in the Constitution. As the ratification process came to a close, the newly formed United States government began to take shape. The Constitution, now the foundation of the federal government, would go on to shape the course of American history for generations to come. One of the most significant consequences of the ratification was the establishment of the Bill of Rights, which was added to the Constitution in 1791 as a result of the concerns raised by the Anti-Federalists during the ratification process. These first 10 amendments to the Constitution would provide explicit protections for individual liberties and limit the power of the federal government. The early years of the American Republic were marked by struggles to implement the principles enshrined in the Constitution. The first president, George Washington, set important precedents for the executive branch, while the judiciary began to assert its role as a co-equal branch of government. As the young nation navigated the challenges of governance, the Constitution proved to be a flexible and adaptable framework, capable of evolving to meet the changing needs of the country. As the years passed, the Constitution would face numerous tests, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, and it would continue to shape American politics and society. The document's emphasis on individual liberties, federalism, and the rule of law has made it a model for constitutional governance around the world. As historian Gordon Wood has observed, the Constitution was a product of the Enlightenment, and its principles of liberty, equality, and democracy have become the standard by which all other governments are judged. Today, the ratification of the United States Constitution is remembered as a pivotal moment in American history, marking the transition from a loose confederation of states to a unified federal government. The document's legacy can be seen in the countless ways it has shaped American politics, law, and culture. As Justice Stephen Breyer has noted, the Constitution is not just a document, it's a way of life. The ratification process, with all its controversies and debates, played a crucial role in shaping the final product, and its impact can still be felt today. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.